I see a live signal.
You definitely do, because we are live again, and we hope we don't drop again. And we wonder if it's AWS nonsense happening to the company Restream we're working with, but
Oh God,
hopefully
this is
we'll.
the third thing I've heard blamed on AWS
I
today.
must blame everything on AWS. But wait, we have to introduce ourselves again. Okay, I'm Jason Pramas from the Boston Institute for Nonprofit Journalism. Hello. And that's Chris Faraone, also from BINJ. Say hi, Chris.
Hey, we don't have a producer with punchy background applause to put in there. We really
We
got
can
it.
totally, we actually didn't do the cheesy AI music, but that's okay. We'll skip it for now. Maybe we'll do it on the outro.
I am Chris Faraone, and these have been going great, but we just got to liven it. We just got to liven it up. So there it is, But it got.
So let me remove the logo from next to our guest's head. And here's our guest, Jordan DelFiugo, a Boston University graduate student in journalism and BINJ reporter, part of our internship program. We're really pleased to have you here, Jordan. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. So, basically, as you all know, but the audience may not, what we do on this show is kind of interview people, at least in the first months, like in and around BINJ, about stuff that, everyone's doing. And so people kind of see how the sausage is made, as Chris likes to say.
I don't like to say that. Nobody likes to say that.
Well, I never said it before I heard you say it.
Because it could be anything. I mean, what? I guess, yeah, nobody wants to know how the sausage is made, and that's anyway, I get it. But yeah,
we're going to find out now, regardless. Whether you want to or not, that's what we're doing. So Jordan recently wrote a piece for us. I will just pull it up so people. Well, actually, you know what? I will not pull it up. I will just say that Jordan recently wrote a piece for us, which we're going to get to in a minute. But first, we're going to find out more about what is up with Jordan. Jordan, who are you? Where are you from? Tell us more about where you're going to school and all that good stuff.
And why are you doing journalism in this 2025 anyways?
Why would you do that? Yeah.
Well, I'm from California. I was born in San Francisco, and then I kind of grew up in San Jose, and I did my undergrad at University of San Francisco. I got my undergrad degree in psychology, and that's kind of how I've got into journalism, because when I first started at USF, I was very reserved, and I had a hard time meeting people. And I remember I wasn't feeling super connected with my major, and I told one of my professors about it, and he was like, well, you're a good writer, you do well on the essays, you should try writing for the school newspaper. That would probably force you to meet people, because you'll have to go to events, and also you'll meet people on the staff and stuff. So I did that. And I remember my first article was definitely a hot mess. I was trying to connect a lot of different topics that didn't really I was trying to tie Britney Spears' conservatorship to abortion rights to stuff happening on campus, and it was I don't know how.
And it was about what, campus lunches?
Yeah, it was definitely a mess. And I don't know how or why they accepted that pitch, honestly, but I really enjoyed writing it. And I liked that they kind of let me have my out there ideas and put them all together to try to string a line of some kind of cohesion between them. And the paper really did help me branch out and meet people and get more involved on campus. And I worked for my school's paper all 4 years. So I started off just regularly contributing, and then they had me on as a GA reporter. And then after doing that, I became managing editor. And then I did that for my last 2 years. I still stayed a psych major throughout all of this, because I wasn't going to graduate on time if not. And also,
I was a psych major too, by the way.
Yeah.
And you write a lot as a psych major. I mean, it's really, you're learning how to take information and basically there's a little bit more bullshit involved than hopefully there is in journalism. But anyway, I get it. No, really, I always said I wrote more as a psych major than anything. My college didn't have journalism, but yeah.
Yeah, USF also didn't have a journalism major. They only had media studies.
Oh, really?
Media studies was a little bit too far off from psych, to a point where I wasn't going to graduate on time, and I didn't want to have to pay to be there any longer, especially because I knew I wanted to go on and get my master's. But yeah, it was great. And I feel a lot of the concepts that I really liked about psychology, which were research, and then when I did my clinical classes, when we had to interview people, was all stuff that I helped me transfer over to journalism skills. I feel my psych classes helped me become more comfortable with interviewing, and then interviewing helped me become more comfortable with my psych classes when it was for reporting, and vice versa. So yeah, that's and then because I had my degree in psychology, but I knew I wanted to do more in journalism. I was doing stuff with my paper mostly at school, but then I did a few like jobs and internships for journalism outside of the school paper. I worked for a radio show based in San Francisco called KPFA, and that was another nonprofit.
Right.
We liked
Pacifica, right?
Wait, is that the San Francisco Public Press's radio station?
It's Pacifica.
Pacifica Pacifica. Yeah. I did. I interned for them for a couple months, and I was doing like script writing, and I liked that they were nonprofit as well. I also did.
That's old school. You're like in with the you're in it, man. That's like deep.
Yeah.
You know, that's really starting at the. You know, really, that's hardcore. And you know, just by the way, can you just humor me for a second? And my whole thing, what you said really speaks to something I said for what I felt for a long time, which is like, after I became a journalist, went to journalism school, started practicing journalism, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. It just dawned on me that, like, why isn't everything kind of journalism? Like, I know that there are certain, corners of academia where like you're not encouraged to actually talk to direct sources. I'm not talking about that, but in life and even in school, to encourage, it's always a word that's immersive, it's hands-on, but when you're doing the way I've always learned growing up, seeing things, experiencing them, speaking with people, getting out in the community, it turned out I've been doing journalism the whole time. And, Jason and I always laugh when they call it, their engagement, because it's like bell-bottom pants. It's like a trend. It comes in every 7 years, a new buzzword, right? But ultimately, you just really said it. Just by means of becoming a reporter, you're out in your college community, meeting people, interviewing them, actually knowing what's going on. It's just a way to keep your finger on the pulse of any place you are, any community.
Yeah, I feel like I would have never known anything that was happening like on campus, like not just events wise, but also like our school had like a climate action plan that I knew nothing about until I started working for the paper, or like I didn't know about like problems with the food in the cafeteria before the paper. So it was just kind of like my own way to also just like know what was going on around me, because I just didn't really have awareness before that. And then I started, like, my senior year, after I'd been working there for a while, I would get like mad that people didn't know what was going on. I'm like, why are you guys not reading the school paper? How do you guys not know?
We know how that goes. Yeah,
that's why. Don't I hope you don't get just get ready to transfer that to people not knowing what the difference between the state wanting to yell at you about politics and not even knowing that there's a state legislature. But I digress.
That's for sure. Yeah. And you went right from there to BU, to grad school, or did you take a break, or what?
Yeah, I graduated from USF in May, and then I started at BU this past September. So I was just working over the summer. Well, my plan was to work over the summer, but I ended up dislocating my knee, and then I was out for a while. But before that, I was working at a hostel in San Francisco, just to save money for school before I moved. And also I worked for the whole time I was an undergrad. I always had like minimum one job. I usually had two.
You're in San Francisco, like, where all this like big money tech bullshit is going on, and you're like, I got to get some money. I'm going to work at a hostel. Bless you. Good for you. And I like where the heart is. And I got to say, I've only gotten to meet you in the past couple of months, and it's been a pleasure to edit you. But I will, I can tell you right now, you're stuck in journalism. You're one of us. If you're in San Francisco, not taking the nonsense money, but I'm glad that's actually a great. San Francisco really is a great place to be a young reporter. Just like I think Boston is. There's even more activity there. When we started, Jason had been doing a nonprofit here in Boston for a while, and he was like he was a trendsetter here. And some of the people who were doing it out, San Francisco was a kind of a hotbed. Also, I always say, like, out there you could throw a baseball and hit one of them, whereas in Boston it was really NPR, Jason, and Sampan. I want to give props. Sampan and Commonwealth Magazine, now known as Commonwealth Beacon, don't get enough credit because they kind of the odd hybrid semi nonprofit operation. But you really saw it between Pacifica and what you saw on the ground there. I want to ask, because I did go to BU, and I'm not here to trash my alma mater, even though I do that every now and then. Are there any? And it's okay if they're a Globey. We're not gonna. Out of curiosity, are there any professors that really that you really really appreciate, that you really look forward to going to those classes, or who have a great story and bring tales of the newsroom? Because for me that was one of the best things. And pops to John Klarfeld, rest in peace, who was like this grumpy old kind of necktie hanging out, screaming about the Red Sox. I think he hadn't drank in years, but he still kind of like pretended he was drunk. It was one of those. But how about for you? Anybody who really, I know Mitch Zuckoff's still there. I believe there's some great professors that I remember, but anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, one of my professors, I actually think she's like fairly new to BU. I think it's like her first or second year teaching, at least for the grad school program. I'm not sure if she was doing undergrad before that, but her name's Deborah Fountain, and she just kind of talks about like her experience before, being a professor, like being a young journalist and doing like multimedia journalism, and how when she was doing broadcasts for a while, and she was talking about how when she would like go on assignment, she would ask people to like that were her height to hold the camera for her because she didn't have a tripod, and then she'd be like editing her own stuff and like making her own packages, and I just found that really cool. And she's just really down to earth and like willing to talk to us about like how she started out and how she kind of had to become like a little like jack of all trades person, which I think is awesome.
That's great. And I got to say I'm really happy to hear that, because for all my criticism at BU, I actually have a lot of journalism programs. Jason and I and others in the, kind of, who also do a lot of media training, but in less official channels and less costly channels for the young people. But we always we joke that there's not a class in freelancing that I know of, at least that there wasn't, that hasn't. If somebody knows of a class in freelancing, please tell me. And that's hilarious, because even if you get a job, you might want to be freelancing. And I think it's just important skills, not that it has to be a whole semester or the title of a course, but some of the things, and getting professors like that who are not old brass, who did not, even if they wound up in a place like the Globe, that they kind of came up, very important. I think, as long as university programs get people like that in there to show you this is what there's a lot of roots, and it's not to the top, it's media. If you're trying to get to the top, you're in entertainment, you're not in journalism. We're trying to do something different here, so that's great to hear, and I will definitely check her out. She'll get a little tag when we put the snippet of you giving her props, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and if anyone does know of a freelance class in a Boston area college, we got the email right on screen. How about that high-tech stuff? So just email us at info@binj.news. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that now because it's kind of obnoxious, but you could see it. It's pretty easy to remember.
What if they try to put the exclamation point in the URL though? I don't know, man.
Then they fail the Darwin test, Chris. So I think we don't have to worry about it
anyway. We don't want them anyway.
Nah, not if they can't figure that out at this point. But it's okay.
Oh, can I? By the way, since I just want I just want to make sure I shout out. I was out promoting in Cambridge today. Roast the News, our 10-year anniversary event, which is at First Parish in Cambridge. Very awesome upstairs room, the barn room, I believe it's called.
Chris, flash that up again. I made you big. I kind of put us on the screen. Yeah. So everyone, that's the one of the posters, and that's the back of the poster. And just go to binj.news.
Yeah.
To check that out. I think I have another lower third. You can also sign up for our newsletter. We got the new site coming very, very soon at that very URL. I will now demaximize
me. Yeah, thanks. But yeah, so listen, I'm just trying to remind people the way we're not hawking energy pills or anything like that just yet. Just our own product, which at this juncture is a November 8th comedy show. We're doing a roast. We're doing a roast of the media. Some of these things we've even been talking about tonight, but a little funnier and a little bit more planned and organized, but it's going to be fun. And it's, we're asking for a $50 donation. But listen, we want you there. That's the most important thing. So let us know, bring your friends, and definitely peep. I was out all day in Cambridge today. Did a little mural in the alley.
Really?
We'll have a video up
Central?
there. Yeah, did a little Central Square alley.
Nice.
Yeah, got all the.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
it's legal there, Jordan.
I'm gonna post it, and I'm gonna say, I got this. I got this from the editor of the Washington Post.
I mean, that's not true, is it?
No, it's not.
It would be really funny.
Imagine an editor of someone who takes themselves very seriously with a tweed jacket, writing graffiti. But different era. I always said if I Jason runs the shop. I get to run the editorial, and I always said I do things my way, and one of my ways is a lot of guerrilla marketing. And frankly, you're gonna be seeing some projections too. That's on the way. So you're gonna be seeing, maybe perhaps some stuff from some of Jordan's reporting and some from our opioid reporting. We have more opioid settlement funding reports coming soon, and yeah, we're gonna be using light projections, but we graffiti where it's legal. We're not breaking the law. It's not for journalism.
Not right now, not as far as you know. Yeah. So let's talk about Jordan's most recent article. I'm going to pull it up on screen, and then we can get going with that segment of this show. And there we are.
Yep.
So proposed BPS exam school admission changes would affect minority and low-income students. Why don't you all, Jordan, you and Chris, talk about this?
Yeah, well, thanks for throwing that, Jason. Yeah, I mean, listen, BPS is. I got to start by saying, Boston Public Schools. It's really interesting. Our coverage area is really Massachusetts, focused around Cambridge, Somerville, Boston. But BPS is one of those things where, frankly, BINJ could just cover BPS. I mean, it's such an unbelievable topic. It's also a very difficult topic to cover. Why is that? Because it's it's just a part of our readership. It doesn't impact everyone directly. We think it's critical. The other thing is, it's really hard to come across reporters who can really get in the groove. So Jordan, that's me saying great freaking job on this story, because you were really thrown to it. I know you're already interested and familiar with BPS, so I want to hear about. I want you to give us an intro. The one thing I will say, because I don't want to put you on the spot, I don't know how far back you go, not being from here, with exam schools, but for those who are maybe watching and not familiar, listen, the Boston exam schools, they're basically people call them private public schools. They are. It's almost impossible to explain. Boston, BLS, Boston Latin School, which is essentially the best one. There's a Boston Latin Academy running in second place, and not to insult anyone, these are all fabulous schools. But in my work and the research I've done and some of the reporting and editing I've done around this, BLS really is a force to be contended with. It is just an absolute brutal regime over there, a major feeder to Harvard. We have reported. We spent about a year, actually, Nate Baroy, and props to one of our great stories that we've ever done about the treatment of really one special needs student in particular there. But while we were doing that, and don't worry, I'm getting there. This is my transition. While we were doing that story, and BINJ never is on the story that everyone else is, because BINJ exists to kind of fill these other gaps often, right?
Yeah.
And I'd argue that now, that's almost a decade ago. Now with BPS, everything needs to be covered. Last year we collaborated with the Dorchester Reporter on some stories, but now anything is important. But when we were covering the treatment of special needs students there at Boston Latin School in particular, the big breakout story that was getting a lot of coverage in the news, literally, it happened while we were doing that story, because like I said, it took about a year to do that, was Black at BLS. Was it was a big hashtag story, and I don't not to diminish it as hashtag activism, but it was a popular hashtag, and Twitter was still important at the time. Twitter still existed at the time, I guess you could even say. And it involved the treatment of students of color at Boston Latin. And here we are years later. And it's kind of interesting because it was probably, there were other issues, national issues that were feeding into that. And I can't stress enough that maybe I hate to just go with my own perception, but at the time, Black at BLS was a big story, even, on the nightly news, not just in Boston, not just in papers like the Dorchester Reporter and the Boston Globe. But here we are years later, and there's this major thing going on that, Jordan wrote about. So I want you to tell us. So that's my intro, but that's the backdrop of, there have been outrage and cries from parents and there's about the treatment and the admissions of students of color to these exam schools. And there have been some fixes. And now, boom, that's your, Jordan, where are we with that now that people aren't paying as much attention?
I was really excited when you mentioned this story to me, because I've been interested in education reporting, but I feel like I haven't had much experience with it. But yeah, I talked to 2 people from Citizens for Juvenile Justice for this story, and then one person that was like a concerned parent that has kids in the BPS system, and she's also like a community organizer. And yeah, essentially with this story, they were talking about their concerns ahead of the school committee's vote, which would confirm these changes that the superintendent is proposing. That would basically, like how it is now with the BPS system, they have like these bonus points that you can get based on your socioeconomic status, like because the way they have the city split up into the different tiers of like 8 different tiers, I think it is for socioeconomic. And then if you're like in a lower tier, you can get like up to a certain amount of bonus points. And then also if you're like in the the Boston Housing Authority or in the care of the Department of Children and Families, things like that, experiencing
it's a point system, and basically you get extra weight depending. No, I mean, and here's the thing: it's like we could talk about all that, but it's not that sophisticated, but it is. There's a little bit of a black box dynamic to it, but essentially, it's there are advantages and disadvantages, and yes, what the hell could be 100% fair? But this is the kind of thing where there've been court cases, and there's always something going on. So, what is the impetus here? What do we think happened? What do we know happened? Because there's a little bit of a black box to this story.
What do we guess happened?
What do we guess happened? And this is, of course, the big T word, the Trump word, perhaps.
Well, I will just jump in and say that it's pretty obvious that the existing metrics for the point system were angling at class and geography, as opposed to like specifically race, ethnicity, and so on. And that's precisely to evade a Trump style administration trying to clamp down on it, right? So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Where I live, I feel like I've never seen anything like just how Boston Public Schools is. Just like this is not really how it is in the area. So it was kind of like a lot for me to even process, just like how just had that exam schools themselves are like a thing, just because I don't really think we have like that. But yeah, basically, so the superintendent was proposing that they would remove the point system or at least reduce it, which they ran a simulation and they found that it would decrease the number of minority students, particularly like Black and Latino students, and then also just like decrease the amount of socioeconomically disadvantaged students in general. And then it would increase enrollment for white and Asian students. And then that comes kind of amid a lawsuit that's also going on where white and Asian parents have a federal lawsuit against Boston for discriminating against white and Asian students. And as someone that I interviewed in the story pointed out, I think it was Jillian from Citizens for Juvenile Justice, you can't really like separate the rhetoric that's coming out of the federal government from local decisions right now. So to kind of say that, yeah, this wasn't impacted by the federal lawsuit or everything coming out of the federal government that's, removing DEI and, removing like measures to make schools more diverse and equitable.
No woke school.
No, not even in Braintree.
It's a tiptoe job. And listen, I don't envy the BPS people. But just for the record, since we're on a video here, you straight up asked BPS. What's the deal? BPS is not saying we're caving into Trump, right? They're just saying that we had this study done. And by the way, so the study was commissioned by BPS. And then it's the Boston School Committee that is going to vote on this in early November, I believe, right?
Yeah. And the thing about the point system is that it's been around for only 5 years. Like it was introduced in 2021 and they have the 5-year review of the exam admissions policy. But the people I were interviewing kind of pointed out like 5 years isn't really even long enough to kind of like test if this is even working. Like you have something that's showing good results. Why are you trying to change it after 5 years? And can we have like one policy for a long enough time to even see if it's working? And then also I think they were kind of frustrated with like what they perceived as like a lack of communication about the decision or lack of like parents being able to have input and then just it being sent over to the school committee and just kind of like what they think is probably just going to be like a rubber stamp. Yeah.
Because you cite a Boston Teachers Union study that over 98% of the time, the school committee does whatever the superintendent wants.
Yeah.
And this all reminds me, I always love, you got to love the commission studies that tell you, that explain something. And then it's like, they don't pay attention because they don't like, it reminds me of like during COVID, they kept commissioning these studies with like big the state government did, Massachusetts, with consultants like McKinsey to see what would happen if we stopped like this kind of support. And it's like, homelessness would increase by like 1.2%. And then they fucking do it. Right. And then they do it, and it's like this is the thing. I can't tell. I've seen this over and over. The MBTA used to do this with like, if we shut down this T stop, how badly would it affect these people? Then they do the study. Elderly people would have to hitchhike a mile in the fucking snow. Whatever. Okay, we're gonna do it anyway. Why do you do the study? Why do you do the study if it doesn't matter? And in this case, I think it's one of those. So although of course there's a couple. There's the Trump or not, there's the pressure of a federal lawsuit. Listen, this is a real story, and not to play Mr. Objective journalism guy, but this is what story's made of. And I got to say that it's not like this story has gotten no coverage at all, but it's the kind of thing that back when there were a ton of papers, this would be all over the place, and there would be there'd be columns about it, and there'd be, and not that that's always a good thing, it's the God knows the globe, how many BPS decisions were made at the hand of some globe asshole out in the suburbs, saying that this is how it should be in Boston public schools. For me,
and the Herald's been outdoing themselves with stupid takes lately too. Let's not forget them. But
that's right. Well, Jason, what was Jason, you the Herald, the socialist
shopping headline.
Socialist shopping. Read Jason's column on socialist shopping. But this is the kind of thing where I think Jordan, I was really, really impressed with your reporting. Anybody, if you're watching this, you know someone at BPS, if your kid's in BPS, forward this around. And I know the article has made it around, because that's one thing about school reporting. Another reason I'm surprised that more outlets don't do more of it is that it makes the rounds. It may not get crazy on social media, but privately, we all know school parents still have those phone chains and all this phone trees, or at least the email equivalent of that kind of old school communication.
Yeah.
But Jordan, just tell us also, like, so you, what was your, and it's impossible to really know this, but what's your sense of how much people know about it? This is another part of your story. It's like, how much did they, tell us about the transparency, what BPS has to do, what they did do, because there's another reason I really appreciated the job you did here, is kind of explore that dynamic of it. It's one of these things, like, are there going to be people who are surprised about this?
That's a good question. I honestly, what the sense that I got when I was talking to one of the parents from BPS was that she felt like there wasn't really a lot of awareness about this within the community. She said that she heard that they had advertised webinars, but she found out about it directly from her city council person that she had run into in an event that was like, hey, did you know that this was like going on? Right. That this was like on the table. And she said that they had 2 Zoom webinars over the summer, but she had expressed that she kind of wished there was more of like an open dialogue. It's like, if you're having a Zoom meeting to kind of like engage and talk about the community with something, and they can just respond on a moderated panel that you can like choose which question that you actually want to answer, that's not really like a real open dialogue with people. And it's not really like,
totally.
Like, I think that they like presenting it in that format, like the 2 Zoom webinars, without really giving people a chance to kind of like talk about it or see if like maybe, I don't know. I know that
it's tough, and after all these years later, it's like we use words, like the digital divide. Like, everybody knows about this stuff now. We're past it. You know what I mean? Like, and yet this is still what we get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but really, you knocked it out. Anybody out there, you got to really definitely read this. And the follow up. Do we have an exact date? Do they have that vote scheduled? And I do hope that. I mean, I don't know if it's worth a follow up either way. Probably if it goes through, it is.
I would say so. I mean, if Jordan's around.
I meant either way. If it's rejected, does it? And also, do we know like what the chances are here?
We don't know the chances, that at least that I could find out for right now. Other than just like the past study of like how often the school committee approves the BPS decision, which I think was like 98%. So the chances are probably pretty high of it passing. Cool. But people are organizing against it. The Massachusetts Education Justice Alliance is working to try to like at least let people know about what's going on and like spreading the words that they can at least like call their people in city council to try to spread, make just more public awareness in general, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
So. No, well, I think excellent. Well, appreciate it. And what do you anything? And we're gonna put you on the spot. What are you looking at next? What's your what's on the horizon? No pun intended.
So to speak.
For BINJ specifically.
Oh yeah, whatever. No, we're talking journalism. We're talking shop.
Oh yeah, I mean, for BINJ, I think probably I was gonna potentially, like we talked about on Friday, like revisit the curation and the arts story that you did before about how good. A follow up on how are they has the arts been at all diversified, like with museums and curation, and because I know there was like
I don't know if we should go to the limb and guess here, but go ahead.
Yeah, something like that. I also, this has kind of been on the back burner, but I started working on that story about redlining in Massachusetts and kind of trying to like build a timeline or history, but still looking into like a specific angle on that. I had an interesting interview with this guy who had made a documentary about the redlining in Boston, not specifically Massachusetts, but just kind of like in general. And the documentary was called Redlining Narratives. And he had a lot of interesting information about that. So I think that'll be, a good background for when I start narrowing it down to a specific focus. But
my family was affected by
history.
My family was affected by redlining, so I mean, I'd love to see that. Although I don't know if you're planning it for us, but yeah, that is definitely up our alley. And tell me, what are you thinking? How are you liking reporting in Boston, existing in Boston compared to San Francisco or San Jose?
I like reporting in Boston in terms of, I feel like their city council events and like local politics are a little bit more organized and easy to follow so far than San Francisco.
Wow.
Were you reporting the East Bay as well, or just in San Francisco?
Mostly just in San Francisco. I haven't really done any reporting in San Jose because I was like in high school and middle school in San Jose, so I hadn't really gotten into journalism yet. And I did college in San Francisco, and that's where I did most of the reporting. And yeah, I feel like it's been like, because I sometimes do reporting on local news things for my college assignments, and I feel like it's been easier to find out about stuff like that. And just like when stuff's happening, I felt like sometimes in San Francisco, I couldn't find out like when certain specific committees were meeting and stuff. And I don't know if that's a user error or if maybe their website was.
No, I mean, sometimes it's a hybrid. But, it's kind of funny. I always like to give the benefit of the doubt, even to people I don't necessarily respect. But during the pandemic, and after the pandemic, when we saw municipalities trying to get rid of online streaming and really other, good government groups and good legislators stepping in and saying, no, we're in the future now, and you're going to have that accountability. And we still, of course, live in a state where the legislature is wholly unaccountable. We don't even see their votes. It's just a total disaster. The only state in the country where all three branches of government are immune from public record law. Is immune the right word? Whatever the hell it is. How about where all three branches of government can tell us to go screw ourselves, right? And so it's a great place. I think there's no better city in the country. I don't know the world, but I know this country, and to be a reporter than Boston. You got the State House down the street from City Hall. You got all sorts of neighborhoods. You can take the bus, the train. So from a lot of great reporters here, old school reporters, some young people doing things. So San Francisco is another place, but really, definitely keep on it. Keep churning them out, grabbing these stories, and I can't wait to see what you got next. You got to grasp. I would definitely stick on BPS a little too, because a lot of people. And by you just said another thing that really stuck, which is any reporter with an eye like you knows that you could just go to a Boston City Council meeting and pluck stories out. I mean, I can't tell you. I used to do it. I mean, I used to at the State House too. I mean, one time I was at the State House just covering one hearing, and I walk out in the hall, and there's like 15 like serious like motorcycle looking leather guys in the hall, and I go, what the fuck are these guys doing here? I followed them into a different hearing room, and it was a hearing about like motorcycle noise laws in the suburbs, and they were there to like stare down these dweebs like who were like following the thing, and I got a great story out of it, like motorcycle thugs like stare down, suburban nerds, whatever it was. So just being there is a huge part of it. So I commend you on that, and great reporting so far. So keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of been like a difference in San Francisco and Boston. Like I like reporting in both, but I feel like the difference for me has been like in San Francisco, I feel like I could just like I feel like I mostly wrote a lot about like the art scene there. Like I feel like on any given day, on any given week, I could like go find like something like there's like a concert in the park or like there's something happening on Haight Street. But then in Boston, I feel like I get a lot more out of like if I go to a city council meeting, I'm like, oh, okay, I have something to write about. So yeah, it's just
we've lost a lot of our art scene in some ways, at least at the grassroots level. The big stuff is still there, the ballet and the symphony and that kind of stuff, but the big museums are still there. But a lot of galleries, have had to, close, maybe move away, maybe just go away forever. Rehearsal spaces, other performance venues, it's affected all kinds of creative folks, and film has been strongly affected at the kind of grassroots level, although Hollywood productions still come through here for certain tax breaks and stuff. But I mean, there's still a lot. I mean, the cities are almost identical, I think, in size, San Francisco and Boston, depending on how you slice it. What kind of metro area you include.
One thing about Boston that is just so makes it so unique and even different from New York, in my opinion, is like how close the suburbs and stuff are, and on the train. It's really, when we talk about Boston, it's different,
and the country too.
And this kind of affects coverage a lot. I think BPS is interesting because it's a Boston thing. But when we talk about the other issue you're looking at, mass incarceration and opioid abuse, addiction, recovery, and death, unfortunately, it's a different story because a lot of those people dying are not from Boston. And I don't mean that the way people like, yeah, you're not from Boston. I don't mean that. I mean that it always falls on the back of the mayor of Boston. Not that they shouldn't be aware and attentive, and not that everything that this mayor or previous mayors have done has been good. But this is a statewide problem looked at like it's, hey, Boston, what's up with the mass incarceration? Hey, Massachusetts, it's your fucking problem too. So,
have you?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, the guy that I interviewed that made the documentary, I was asking him about like what his thoughts were about like kind of like, what Boston could do like on a local level, like to help, kind of mitigating the crisis and everything. And he's like, it's not a local problem, it's a federal problem and it's a state problem. So
So we're, and I listen, I love to even maybe we should even just run the interview. I love stuff like that. Let's just throw the ball down the road and catch up to it, because I think stuff like that, a lot of those people, they get the juices flowing. I'd love to see that. So yeah, I think we could. We have open editorial meetings during these. I think it's great.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's other stuff I could ask you, Jordan, but perhaps rather than get more in the weeds with journalism stuff, I will just ask, how much have you had a chance to encounter our fair city while you've been here? Like, have you gone out and had any fun? Are there neighborhoods that you haven't seen yet that you'd like to see? Anything like that?
I think my favorite neighborhoods I've seen so far are, I really like the North End. I mean, I love Italian food, so that's kind of hard to go wrong. I went to the Fisherman's Feast there when I first moved.
Good.
One of my first weekends. That was super fun. I like the Bova's, the bakery, the 24-hour bakery. I've gotten some good stuff from there. I've been to Chinatown once. I think I'd probably like to see more of that.
Good. I worked there for 10 years, and there's still a lot of stuff going on there. Both of those communities are trying to retain some sense of their historic, character. But I don't mean that as an ossified thing. I mean, there was like a significant Italian community in the North End, also a Jewish community, I think maybe even before the Italians to some degree. And then Chinatown, also for about 100 years, has been primarily, if not just people from China, people from Asia in general, but mostly China and mostly specific areas of China. It's been a real fight to stop full-on gentrification to the point where even the cultural sort of stuff, the educational stuff, and the restaurants in particular would go away or cease to, kind of be what they once were. I don't know what you think about that or what you noticed, just off the street.
I was there super briefly. I just remember I got some fruit from a good, like, local fruit stand that a guy had kind of probably
in Chinatown or in the North End?
Chinatown. but I didn't really get to see much else.
But you hung around a little bit longer in the North End, and I don't know how much you walked around, and I don't know what people could see from out of town that would like clue them in. But I mean, it's Chris that's Italian, I'm Greek. We didn't really have our own area of the city.
Same difference.
Lowell is more known as like a Greek stronghold, in as much as there is one. But there were places where Greeks were, but Italians were definitely, like when I was a kid, and I'm just, I'm pushing 60 these days, but so back in the 70s, let's say, I mean, it sort of looked like a Hollywood like view of what an Italian neighborhood would look like, with kind of like tough, sort of chubby and or muscular dude hanging out for some reason on certain corners, and old ladies like doing their laundry, and then going downstairs to cook in a restaurant. Or it was definitely like a live and vibrant community. And now I don't see so much of that, and I know a lot of wealthy people have moved in, and Airbnb has also taken a chunk out of all these kinds of communities, especially downtown. Maybe that's slowed up a bit. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, now that you mentioned that, I guess I do kind of notice. I mean, I'm San Francisco's version of like Little Italy. Their North Beach is also, I think, getting gentrified and less Italian. But even still, I feel like I notice like when I'm over there, I like hear more people speaking Italian. There's like more like Italian characters. But when I'm in North End, I guess I don't see that as much. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. My family's also Italian. My grandpa's from Abruzzo in Italy, which is like.
Oh, really? Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, my last name is actually not technically DelFiugo, it's DelFuoco, but he changed it when he came to Ellis Island.
Same with mine.
Really?
Mine is actually Fargone. And the G is silent, just like the second A is. But I'm glad they changed it. They just kind of flipped it upside down. The G to far gone is pretty funny. I guess I could take it. It's better than Chris Fartone. I once had to go through South by South to put that on my name tag. I think I have that around here somewhere, but there's a lot of stuff. It's hard to kind of find anything, but
Yeah. I mean, probably a lot of the people you saw at the Fisherman's Festival were from the suburbs.
Yeah.
And they come in just for that, kind of thing, and then go back out to wherever they're living, Everett, Revere, points north, points west, points south, not in the ocean though, probably. But and I don't know what you think, like, what do you think about that process? Is it, I mean, because, like certainly in my family over the decades, I mean, we've been here well over a century on both sides of my Greek family. Everybody intermarries, pretty much everybody by this time, certainly, right? Widely, like, they marry people from like whose ancestors are from all over the world, right? So things change, and you're not, everyone's not part of the same subculture anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know, whether you think that matters or not. I go back and forth.
Yeah, I think it is kind of sad. Like, I feel like I really don't know a lot about like my heritage at all, honestly. I mean, I know like when my grandpa came here, he married my grandma, who's like from America. They met in Pennsylvania and then they moved out to California. And nobody speaks Italian other than my grandpa did. And then he would try to like teach us, but I don't think it stuck with anyone. Pretty low. So, yeah.
I think it's good. I mean, I think it's good. It's for me. That's so much of that is such bullshit. And like, I was raised with, Italian is like red sauce on Sundays, leather jackets, and and half the people in your family are idiots and racist, frankly. And I honestly, I could care less about my nationality other than kind of through reading about, frankly, radicals, a lot of the Boston area Italians, the Sacco and Vanzetti stuff, and joining the Sacco and Vanzetti Society when I first moved up here, and seeing that Italians were, frankly, the opposite of what I had grown up seeing, this kind of caricature of, wannabe gang mobsters and running dice games, but actually the opposite, but communitarians and hardworking motherfucker, making shoes 6.5 days a week, crazy 18-month apprenticeships before you could even get on the job. And learning about that actually for the first time in my 30s had any pride at all. And and being Italian or whatever. But listen, the food is great, and I'm not that much of an asshole. And
because we Greeks trained you to cook, see, so of course it's good. Yeah,
it's like the whole thing is I think we're all past at least the generations of I think frankly, thanks to Rudy Giuliani, we're never going to have a time where Italians just think all Italian people are good.
Yeah.
Some of the worst people in the world are Italian, and even if they make movies about them glorifying their actions. So.
I mean, it's true of any ethnicity, of course, right? And I mean, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, but I'm allowed to say it about Italians.
I'm not dissing you for saying it. I'm just saying, I'm pretty happy.
I'm just saying, yeah, that's the difference there.
I'm pretty happy that we're mixing it up, in the U.S., between all these different cultures. And I know for sure that a lot of the less open-minded people out there in People Land are freaked out by it, and our current federal government is certainly listening to that kind of stuff, if not leading it at times. But I think generally speaking, the trend culturally and historically is toward admixture, and it's generally for the better. Although, people can become parochial and narrow-minded even after decades and decades and decades of people intermarrying and everybody eventually turning kind of, light brown or something. Like then there'll be an American culture if we survive that long, right? And people will be ridiculous about that and move other places and have American neighborhoods with American food. And
I think we have that already. There's definitely people moving into. Although I don't want to we could do a whole episode on.
I know, we could go on and on, right? I don't mean to drag this on too much, but go ahead.
When I went to Italy, and people were asking me about America, they were just asking me about the movie Superbad and Project X. I thought that was really funny.
That must
what do they want to know?
Was it old at the time or what?
No, this was last year, and I was in Naples, and everyone's like, oh, "Have you seen Superbad?"
Last year?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. What the hell is that all about?
I don't know.
What are you gonna do?
Pretty random. What can I say? So thanks a lot for coming on the show, Jordan DelFiugo.
I might have mispronounced your name the other day, but I'll get it. DelFiugo is right though.
Yeah, DelFiugo's
right. I think I actually maybe did get it. We'll see. I don't want to pat myself on the back if I screwed up. But
be glad I don't use my actual last name Pramas, right? That would be even harder. And there's more to it. I'm not even saying the whole thing.
I forgot you had a longer.
Yeah, I have this whole other.
You might get purged from the voter rolls. Be careful, man.
Oh, I know. Get deported. Oh no. It has been fun, and now I'm going to ask everybody to freeze while you're waving, and we'll try to get off the show and have the end of the show on the recording end nicely instead of just abruptly stopping. So thanks very much, and hope everybody enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next Tuesday at, we believe, 8 p.m. East Coast time with another edition of Binge Live, and our guest will be I have to use is it? No, see, I don't want to say the wrong name. Is it C. Scott Morris? Is that the correct name, Chris? Will be our next guest.
Yeah, Christopher Scott Morris.
Well, no, but he doesn't use that name. So,
I know.
I was trying to say the other name.
We're going to be back with another binge reporter. The first question of any good interview is, "What's your name?"
Yeah, well, he'll have. I think we know what he prefers professionally. I just don't want to say the wrong thing. In any case, we'll be back next week. Thanks, folks, and thank you very much, Jordan.
Thanks. See you guys.